Welcome, and thank you for your interest in the material we will be presenting today. This training is to provide an overview of the needs of accessibility in training materials and the solutions that lie in universal learning design. This is an important and potentially overlooked part of instructional design. However, with thoughtfulness and attention, this approach can make learning accessible to all learners, including those with special needs, as well as enhancing your material's overall effectiveness. This module itself has accessibility functions available. You may manage your view accessibility options by using the controls at the bottom. By the end of this introductory video, you should know the following: why it's important to consider all learners when designing material, what the obligations are under the law for workplace accessibility, how to consider other approaches to make sure your materials are compliant with accessibility guidelines, and further resources that you can use to continue to develop greater accommodations in your designs. But why the need for universal design in learning? It is no secret that one of the key strategic components of successful companies in this current time is diversity. Building a diverse workforce gives companies the advantage of having a broad variety of viewpoints and ideas. These contributions can increase a company's effectiveness at coming up with a more rich collection of solutions and ways to increase their addressable market. That diversity will also affect the areas of learning and development. In this environment, it naturally follows that employees of different abilities and needing different accommodations will be a natural consideration in the area of training. Visual and hearing impairments are probably the most common, and when approached mindfully, can be provided with learning modifications and tools without the need for a substantial degree of more resources. The effect of this approach as a part of the guiding design principle in material development can create a more rich learning environment, not only for the learners with special needs, but for all learners, and make the material more engaging and more effective overall. It can also keep your business in compliance with legal obligations. There are many laws stretching back decades that have been created to make sure all people have the opportunities our economy can afford us. This means that no one should be left out, and accessibility should be a constant consideration. Here's a breakdown of the primary laws according to the book Educational Psychology by Kevin Seifert and Rosemary Sutton. Rehabilitation Act of 1973, Section 504. This law, the first of its kind, required that individuals with disabilities be accommodated in any program or activity that receives federal funding. Although this law was not intended specifically for education, in practice it has protected students' rights in some extracurricular activities for older students and some child care or after-school care programs for younger students. If those programs receive federal funding of any kind, the programs are not allowed to exclude children or youth with disabilities, and they have to find reasonable ways to accommodate the individual's disabilities. Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, or ADA. This legislation also prohibited discrimination on the basis of disability, just as Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act had done. Although the ADA also applies to all people, not just to students, its previous versions are more specific and stronger than those of Section 504. In particular, ADA extends to all employment and jobs, not just those receiving federal funding. It also specifically requires accommodations to be made in public facilities, such as buses, restrooms, and telephones. ADA legislation is therefore responsible for some of the minor renovations in schools that you may have noticed in recent years, like wheelchair-accessible doors, ramps, and restrooms, and public telephones with volume controls. 2004, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA. As its name implied, this legislation was more focused on education than either Section 504 or ADA. It was first passed in 1975 and has been amended several times since, including most recently in 2004. In its current form, the law guarantees the rights related to education for anyone with a disability from birth to age 21. It is important to have a full understanding of these laws and how they apply directly to any workplace environment. Organizations that have not been so mindful have experienced tremendous repercussions as a result. In 2008, Target, the retail giant, paid out $6 million for non-ADA compliance on their website, according to the Los Angeles Times. The Chronicle of Higher Education reported in 2012 that it cost Florida State University $150,000 in an e-learning lawsuit. In 2015, the New York Times reported that even Harvard and MIT were involved with a lawsuit for failing to provide closed captioning. It is important to keep in mind that besides the financial impact of court costs, legal fees, and settlements, repercussions can include bad publicity that can tarnish a company's reputation in the eyes of potential customers and partners. As important as these financial and reputational factors are in business, they are not the primary reason we seek to make the fullest use of the universal learning design. We do it because it's the right thing to do. It can connect us to the widest set of employee talent, it can allow us to reach the broadest customer base, and it can make the materials we develop better and more functional for all our employees and customers. So what is Universal Learning Design, or ULD? Training Industry Magazine outlines ULD as a scientifically valid framework for guiding educational training that does the following. First, it provides flexibility in the ways information is presented, in the ways students respond or demonstrate knowledge and skills, and in the ways students are engaged. Second, it reduces barriers in instruction, provides appropriate accommodations, supports, and challenges, and maintains high achievement expectations for all learners. This means that materials are developed and presented using the following principles, leveraging three primary neural networks in the brain. Principle 1. Recognition network. Provide multiple means of representation. The what of learning, allowing individuals to see, identify, and recognize patterns. Principle 2. Strategic network. Provide multiple means of action and expression. The how of learning, enabling individuals to set goals, develop plans, and act on these approaches. Principle 3. Affective network. Provide multiple means of engagement. The why of learning, allowing individuals to determine which patterns are important. One example of how accommodations can benefit all learners and employees is with closed captioning. Let's look at the example of the current project you are developing for company deployment. Your current project is a series of video lectures training employees on the new initiative and how to use the system software to engage with this new approach. It currently has video screen capture and audio explanations of what is being done on the screen. However, it is lacking accommodations for the hearing impaired. If closed captioning were added to the video in development, and in all learning videos, as in this video training, then not only can a person with hearing difficulty be able to use the material to its fullest, so could an employee needing to access the training in a noisy environment, or people who don't natively speak the language being used in the videos. There's a great deal of potential beyond the base of ADA compliance to be experienced by including these accommodations. A link with options for developing closed captions for your material are included in the notes below the video. Once a company sees the value and wants to commit to being fully accessible, how do you start? Here are several resources for different departments to use to analyze where these principles can best be put into action in their daily functions. A checklist is available here at w3.org for improving online accessibility and discovering issues that you may not have been aware of in your material. The University of Central Florida has provided a video for more effective use of captioning that can be found at this link. Also, ComEvo blog has resources that can aid in conceptualizing design opportunities at this link. These links will also be available in the notes below this video. So as you can see, embracing universal learning design can increase the effectiveness of a company's goals, both internally and externally. By using this training module, you have gained an understanding of the needs for learning accessibility in the modern workplace, discovered the legal obligations and ramifications for not being compliant, learned the definition of universal learning design and its benefits, and have been provided with additional resources for adapting your company's training materials in this direction of universal learning design. By leveraging the capabilities present in this approach, your increasingly diverse workforce can find a strong path forward into the future. Thank you for taking the time to understand accessibility and universal learning design. I hope you find robust solutions to your learning design goals.